We are joined once again by Dan Rather, the former longtime anchor of the CBS Evening News, and by Ian Bremmer, the president of the political research and consulting firm Eurasia Group. Nice to have both of you back.
Thanks, good to be back.
Let's start with Afghanistan. More American casualties today. This is the deadliest month. The war has been going on now for nearly 8 years, and I think the question, Dan, many Americans are asking is just where is it going?
Nobody knows, and that includes the president and his top advisors. You have to see it as one battlefield, Afghanistan and Pakistan. We are engaged, we the United States, mostly on one portion of the battlefield in Afghanistan. But you must see this as Afghanistan and Pakistan as one as far as the battle to achieve our goals there.
Yeah, most Americans just see us fighting in one place. That's Afghanistan.
And that is mostly where we're fighting. I mean, I agree completely with Dan. I mean, you think about the entire war, the old great game, right, as one chessboard. And the war's being fought on both sides, and the Taliban are on all sides of the board. But we've got the white pieces. We're being kept to our side. We're not likely to win that way, as you've seen with the operations in Helmand Province. As the U.S. has been engaging, the Afghani fighters have melted away. We can do some protection of the population. I think that will work. And you can help to shore up Karzai, and whoever else is going to be the future president of Afghanistan, as the mayor of Kabul. But that is very different from actually coming up with the sort of progress that would be required to allow for long-term support internationally in the U.S. and in Europe to continue this thing. That's probably not going to happen.
He's made a very important point here, that the Taliban and their allies, including Al-Qaeda, are fighting a traditional guerrilla war based on the Mayo model, which is when the enemy is strong, retreat. When the enemy gets strung out, harass. When the enemy gets weak, attack. So the Marines, who I think have done an outstanding job in Helmand Province, they're very well trained. They put the emphasis more on soft power than on firepower, but they're faced with this situation. Anytime they get strong, the enemy disappears. Anytime they get strung out or isolated in a small unit, they get attacked.
But when does this war become a political liability for the president?
Right now, it is a political liability. It's his war. He made it so. That is, during the campaign, he preached the gospel of de-emphasize Iraq, emphasize Iran. It's his war to win or lose. He just doesn't know how to win it.
I think it's not a political liability yet, because his top 10 priorities are all domestic, and they will be, and that'll get the airtime as long as the recession is as deep as it presently is, and also until the U.S. gets the big 1,000 killed in Afghanistan. They're not at 800 yet, and frankly, I know that part of the back of the envelope numbers of how long Gates thinks he can continue to go in Afghanistan is before they hit those headlines.
All right, I want to move on to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, her trip to Asia. She began this trip by saying that the United States was not going to focus on North Korea. She sort of made that equation that they're like a spoiled child getting too much attention, then spent the rest of the trip talking about North Korea. What goes on here, and does that do us any good in this relationship?
I think not. I'm sure the Secretary of State would argue otherwise, but North Korea is an extremely difficult place to get any handle on at all. And by the way things have developed at this meeting in Asia about North Korea, I think the North Koreans walk out the winners, at least in the short and medium term.
Did Secretary of State Clinton not come across so well on this journey?
I think she's had a difficult time over the last few months, frankly. She had the injury, the Iran policy has gone Obama's way, but not so much hers. That's been commented on. And now North Korea. Look, these are difficult foreign policy problems. The Bush administration didn't do very well. Obama's not either. And Hillary Clinton getting goaded into it by the North Koreans, calling her, said, sort of between a school child and a pensioner. The only job, clearly, that you'd want to have in North Korea is being a speechwriter for Kim Jong-il.
It's the only one that'd be any fun.
There's nothing else that you'd want to do.
You get free reign to criticize anybody in the West and call them ridiculous names.
It's like SNL back there, I think that's right.
And one more to keep in mind in the background of this is Kim Jong-il is ill, very ill from all reports. They have a successor in place, one of his sons, but it makes it very, very difficult to do any business at all with the North Koreans.
What do they want to be left alone during this period? Just leave us alone until we figure it out?
Well, they want to be left alone in terms of any power play on our part, but they want to prevail as a power in their region. And they're very determined, they're very smart, and very difficult. And he made the point that the Secretary of State has had a difficult time, not just with North Korea, but right across the board. It has not been a good past 6 months for her, and it raises the question of how long she will stay. I'm not predicting she won't stay the full Obama term, but it raises the question.
Let's mention real quickly, we had Vice President Joe Biden. He was in the former Soviet republics, Ukraine and Georgia. What was he doing, Ian?
The United States has been trying. Hillary Clinton talked about it. That was a relatively successful moment for her when she met with Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov and said that she wanted to reset the relationship between the United States and Russia. But the meetings that Obama had in Moscow were at best middling. The meeting with Medvedev went well.
So is this a follow-up to that?
It's a bit of a follow-up to that because the United States is still committed to its relationship with Georgia and Ukraine, and the Russians see it as a zero-sum game. They want these guys out. They're not going to get NATO enlargement anytime soon because the Europeans will stop it from happening, but they do want to show, and this is an issue that Biden's been following for decades, running Foreign Relations Committee in Senate, want to show that the U.S. is still actually committed to these guys on the ground.
Dan, you said that Ukraine is the key to Russia.
No Russian leader could survive allowing the United States to increase its influence by any significant amount in Ukraine. And that's part of our problem and part of, no doubt, what was in the heavy background of Joe Biden's trip there. Let me make one other point, and that is that I agree that I think the trip did not go well, the president's trip to Russia. What we don't know yet is, were there any secret agreements, any meeting of the minds? The Russians, I believe, said to him, listen, we have helped you in Afghanistan. We've helped you time and time again, and we are not getting anything for it. All we get is trouble for it. And that's right at the core of the continuing problem of U.S.-Russia relations.
We'll have to leave it there. Dan Rather, Ian Bremmer, thank you both.
Good to be with you.
Thank you.